r/confession trusted mechanic scammed me out of $3,000, so I exposed him. I stared at the invoice in disbelief, my hands trembling as I read the number again, $3,247.83. The fluorescent lights in Marcus's waiting room suddenly felt too bright, and the familiar smell of motor oil that usually comforted me now made my stomach churn. There's got to be some mistake, I whispered, looking up at Marcus wiping his greasy hands on his coveralls. The same Marcus who'd fixed my Honda 3 times over the past 2 years. The same Marcus who always gave me a fair deal and explained everything in terms I could understand. The same Marcus I'd recommended to my neighbor just last month. No mistake, Sarah. His voice was different now, colder somehow. Your transmission was shot, needed a complete rebuild. Plus your brake system was dangerous, had to replace all the pads and rotors. And that engine mount? One pothole away from serious damage. My 6-year-old daughter Emma tugged at my sleeve from the plastic chair beside me. Mommy, can we go home now? I'm hungry. Home. Where I'd have to figure out how to pay rent in 8 days with exactly $247 left in my checking account after this nightmare. Marcus, I brought the car in because it was making a weird noise when I turned left. That's it. Just a noise. My voice cracked. You said it would probably be something minor, maybe $100. That was Tuesday morning at 9:30 a.m., 3 days ago. I'd dropped Emma at school and driven straight to Marcus's shop on Elm Street, the same shop with 47 5-star Google reviews and a Best of the City award hanging behind the counter. The shop where Marcus had always been honest with me about what I could put off and what needed immediate attention. Look, I know it's a lot, Marcus said, not meeting my eyes. But I can't let you drive out of here with a death trap. What if something happened to your little girl? The guilt hit like a punch to the chest. What kind of mother would I be if I ignored safety issues? But what kind of mother would I be if we got evicted because I couldn't make rent? Can I see the old parts? The ones you replaced? Marcus shifted his weight, glancing toward the bay where my silver Honda still sat. Already disposed of him. Environmental regulations, you know? Have to get the old fluids and metal out of here within 24 hours. Something cold settled in my stomach. In all my previous visits, Marcus had always shown me exactly what was wrong. He'd point to the worn brake pads, or the cracked belt, sometimes even taking pictures with his phone so I could see for myself. I don't have $3,000, Marcus. We take payment plans. $50 a month minimum, plus interest. $50 a month for the next 6 years. $50 I didn't have, for a car that had been running perfectly fine except for one small noise when turning left. I pulled out my credit card with shaking hands, knowing it would max out my last available credit. Emma was still tugging at my sleeve, asking about lunch, asking when we could go home. She had no idea that home might not be ours much longer. As Marcus ran my card, I stared at that Best of the City award on the wall and wondered how many other single mothers had sat in this same chair, feeling the same desperate helplessness. The card reader beeped. Approved. I had no idea that everything I thought I knew about Marcus was a lie. The drive home was silent except for Emma's chatter about her friend Mia's birthday party next weekend, a party I now couldn't afford to buy a gift for. My Honda ran smooth as silk, no strange noises, no vibrations, nothing that felt like it had ever needed $3,000 worth of repairs. When I turned left onto Maple Street, I held my breath and listened carefully. Nothing. No sound at all. Mommy, you're being weird, Emma said from the back seat. I was being weird. I was also being suspicious, which felt terrible because Marcus had always been good to us. But as I pulled into our driveway, something nagged at me. I grabbed my phone and called my brother Jake in Phoenix. Sarah. How's my favorite sister? Your only sister. Jake, I need to ask you something about car stuff. I walked Emma inside and got her settled with a snack while I explained what happened. Jake was quiet for a long moment. A transmission rebuild and brake job together? On a 2018 Honda with 60,000 miles? 62,000, I corrected. Sarah, that's unlikely. Hondas are bulletproof. And you just had the brakes done 8 months ago, remember? You called me then too, worried about the cost. My stomach dropped. I had called Jake about the brakes. In January, when Marcus charged me $340 for new front pads and rotors. But Marcus said all 4 wheels needed. He's full of shit, Jake interrupted. Look, I'm not there to see the car, but transmission problems don't just appear overnight. And brake pads don't wear out in 8 months with city driving. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen staring at the invoice. Emma was coloring at the table, humming a song from school. Normal 6-year-old life continuing while my world tilted sideways. I called Marcus's shop at 4:15 p.m. Elite Auto, this is Danny. Danny was Marcus's nephew, maybe 19, who sometimes worked the front desk. Hi Danny, it's Sarah Chen. I picked up my Honda today? I was wondering if I could get copies of the photos Marcus took of the damaged parts. Photos? Hold on. I heard muffled conversation in the background. Marcus says he didn't take any photos this time. But he always takes photos. He showed me pictures of my brake pads in January, remember? More muffled talking. Yeah, sorry, Mrs. Chen. He says the damage was so obvious he didn't think to document it. My hands were shaking again. What about the work order? Can you email me the detailed breakdown of labor hours? I'll have Marcus call you back. Marcus never called back. That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I googled how to tell if you need transmission repair and spent 2 hours reading automotive forums. Everything I read said the same thing, transmission problems start with obvious symptoms. Slipping gears, delayed engagement, burning smells, fluid leaks. My car had never done any of those things. At 9:30 p.m., after putting Emma to bed, I grabbed a flashlight and went outside to look under my Honda. The driveway was bone dry. No fluid leaks anywhere. I popped the hood and checked the transmission fluid with my phone's flashlight. Clean, full, the right color according to the forums I'd read. Standing there in my pajamas in the dark, the truth hit me like a physical blow. Marcus had lied to me. Stolen from me. Looked my 6-year-old daughter in the eye and robbed us of our security. I walked back inside and did something else I'd never done before. I started Googling elite auto service reviews, but this time I read the 1-star comments instead of the 5-star ones. What I found made my blood run cold. The first 1-star review was from 3 months ago. Linda Morrison, 67 years old, took my late husband's Buick here for an oil change. 3 hours later they said I needed $2,800 in engine work or the car would die. Got a second opinion at Davidson Auto, nothing wrong except a loose air filter. Avoid this place. Asterisk. My coffee went cold as I scrolled through more hidden complaints buried under dozens of glowing 5-star reviews. Asterisk charged my elderly mother $1,900 for emergency suspension work on her 2019 Camry with 15k miles. Turns out they loosened her lug nuts and told her the wheels were about to fall off. Asterisk Michael Torres, 2 months ago. Asterisk single mom getting scammed here. Brought my van for brake noise, left with $3,400 bill for transmission work I didn't need. Found out later the brake noise was a $12 shim. Asterisk Jennifer Walsh, 6 weeks ago. The pattern was sickeningly clear. Women. Elderly customers. Single parents. People like me who trusted mechanics because we had to. I screenshot every negative review, my hands shaking with rage. Jennifer Walsh's story was almost identical to mine right down to the amount. At 11:47 p.m., I found her Facebook profile and sent a message. Asterisk hi Jennifer, I know this is weird but I saw your review about Elite Auto Service. I think Marcus just did the same thing to me. Would you be willing to talk? Asterisk. She responded within minutes. Asterisk oh honey, yes. I've been trying to warn people for weeks. Can you call me tomorrow? Asterisk. I barely slept. Emma found me at the kitchen table at 6 a.m., still in yesterday's clothes, surrounded by printouts and notes. Mommy, why are you crying? I'm not crying, baby. Just tired. But I was crying. Angry tears, helpless tears, scared tears for our future. After dropping Emma at school, I called Jennifer Walsh. Her voice was thick with emotion as she told me her story almost identical to mine, but worse. She'd been evicted. Had to move in with her sister in another state. Lost her job because she couldn't get reliable transportation. Sarah, he's been doing this for months. Maybe longer. I found 4 other women just in our Facebook mom groups who got scammed the same way. Why hasn't anyone stopped him? Who's going to believe us over a best of the city mechanic? I reported him to the Better Business Bureau. Know what they said? He responded that I was a disgruntled customer who didn't understand automotive necessity. That afternoon, I did something that would have terrified me a week ago. I drove to Davidson Auto, the shop Linda Morrison mentioned in her review. I asked them to inspect my car, all of it. 20 minutes later, Tom Davidson walked into the waiting room shaking his head. Ma'am, I don't know what to tell you. Your transmission is perfect. Fluid's clean, no leaks, shift smooth. Your brakes have maybe 10,000 miles of wear on them, totally fine. And that engine mount? Rock solid. What about a noise when turning left? Let me guess, a little squeak or rub? He smiled sympathetically. 99% of the time that's your CD joint boot. $15 part, hour of labor. $75 max. $75. Not $3,000. The guy who charged you for all this work? He's a criminal. I sat in Davidson Auto's parking lot for 20 minutes, crying angry tears. Then I called Jennifer Walsh back. Jennifer, what if we didn't just warn people? What if we made sure everyone in the city knew exactly what Marcus was doing? What do you mean? I mean we destroy him before he destroys anyone else. The silence stretched between us. Then, I'm listening. That night, while Emma slept, I opened my laptop and created a new Facebook account. Then a Twitter account. Then an Instagram. Marcus had no idea what was coming for him. The next morning, I did something that felt both terrifying and empowering. I called in sick to work for the first time in 8 months. I need today to handle a family emergency, I told my supervisor at the insurance office, which wasn't really a lie. My family was definitely in an emergency situation thanks to Marcus. After dropping Emma at school, I drove straight to the county courthouse. If I was going to expose Marcus, I needed to understand exactly what he'd done wrong legally. The clerk at the Consumer Protection Office, a tired-looking woman named Patricia, pulled up Elite Auto Service on her computer. That's interesting, she said, scrolling through something. We've had 3 complaints filed against this business in the past 4 months. Usually we might see 1 complaint a year for a shop this size. My heart raced. What kind of complaints? I can't give you specifics, but let's just say you're not the first person asking about unnecessary repairs. She handed me a pamphlet about automotive fraud. If you decide to file a complaint, make sure you have documentation. Receipts, second opinions, anything that proves the work wasn't needed. Walking back to my car with Tom Davidson's inspection report in my hand, I felt something I hadn't experienced since this nightmare started, hope. Not just hope that I could get my money back, but hope that I could actually stop Marcus from doing this to anyone else. I called Jennifer Walsh from the courthouse parking lot. Jennifer, how many victims did you say you found? 4 definite ones in the mom groups, but I think there are more. Why? I just learned Marcus has 3 complaints filed against him with the county already. What if we found everyone he's scammed? What if we got them all together? Like a class action thing? Maybe. Or maybe just a coordinated effort to make sure his crimes don't stay hidden under fake 5-star reviews. That afternoon, Jennifer and I met at a coffee shop on the other side of town. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 25, with dark circles under her eyes and a baby carrier slung across her chest. This is Maddox, she said, adjusting the sleeping infant. He's 4 months old. When Marcus scammed me, I was already behind on daycare payments. Her voice hardened. I had to pull Maddox out of daycare and give up my job at the bank because I couldn't afford both rent and childcare after that $3,000 hit. My chest tightened. Jennifer, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. Look what I found this morning. It was a Facebook post in a local seniors group, timestamped just 2 hours ago. Asterisk, can anyone recommend a good, honest mechanic? Just got quoted $4,200 at Elite Auto Service for my 2020 Toyota and it seems high. The young man was very nice, but I'm on a fixed income. Asterisk. We have to warn her, I said immediately. I already messaged her. Her name's Dorothy Chin. Any relation? I nearly choked on my coffee. Chen's my married name. It's super common, but what's her first name again? Dorothy. Dorothy Chin. Lives on Birch Street. My hands went cold. What's her address? Jennifer showed me the message thread. 847 Birch Street. Oh my god, I whispered. That's my ex-mother-in-law. The irony was devastating. Marcus was about to scam the grandmother of the child he'd already helped push toward homelessness. Emma's grandmother, who babysat twice a week and slipped me grocery money when she thought I wasn't looking. I called Dorothy immediately. Sarah, sweetheart. What a nice surprise. Dorothy, please tell me you haven't paid Elite Auto Service yet. Well, no, the estimate seemed quite high. The mechanic said my engine was about to fail in. Dorothy, stop. Don't give them a penny. I'll explain everything, but right now I need you to go get your car and take it anywhere else for a second opinion. There was a long pause. Sarah, you're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. That mechanic just tried to steal over $4,000 from you. After I explained everything, Dorothy was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. Finally, that evil man looked me in the eye and told me my car was dangerous to drive. I was planning to call a taxi tomorrow to bring him the check. When I hung up, Jennifer was staring at me. Your mother-in-law? Ex-mother-in-law, but yeah. Emma's grandmother. I felt something dark and determined settling in my chest. He almost got her too, Jennifer. He almost stole $4,000 from a 73-year-old woman on a fixed income. What do we do now? I looked at Jennifer, at baby Maddox sleeping peacefully in his carrier, and thought about Emma asking for lunch money I couldn't give her yesterday. I thought about Dorothy's trusting voice, about how close she'd come to being Marcus's next victim. Now we stop playing defense, I said. Now we go to war. That evening, Jennifer and I created our battle plan. We found Marcus's pattern. He targeted vulnerable people, charged between $2,800 and $4,500, always claimed emergency repairs that couldn't wait, and always disposed of the damaged parts immediately. But as we dug deeper into his operation, we discovered something that made my blood run cold. Sarah, look at this, Jennifer said, scrolling through Elite Auto's Google reviews on her laptop. We were sitting at my kitchen table while Emma did homework nearby. Look at the dates on these 5-star reviews. I leaned in to read the screen. The glowing reviews weren't randomly scattered over months or years like normal businesses. They came in clusters, 10 to 15 5-star reviews posted within days of each other, then nothing for weeks. March 15th through March 18th, 12 perfect reviews, I noted. Then a gap until April 22nd through April 25th, another 15 reviews. Jennifer pulled up her phone. I got scammed on March 19th. The lady with the Buick? Her review is from March 20th. The pattern was sickening. Marcus would post fake reviews to bury the real complaints from his victims. But that wasn't the worst part. Jennifer, look at these usernames. I pointed at the screen. Totally real customer 847, definitely not fake 23, honest review 2024. He's not even trying to hide it. That's not illegal though, is it? Fraud is illegal. Filing false business reports is illegal. I screenshot everything. But this gives us something better than a lawsuit. This gives us proof of systematic deception. At 9:47 p.m., after putting Emma to bed, I made a decision that would have terrified me a week ago. I called the local news station. Channel 7 Newsroom, this is Brad. Hi, I'd like to report a story about automotive fraud targeting women and elderly customers. My voice was steadier than I felt. Ma'am, we generally need more than one complaint to. I have 7 victims so far, documented evidence of fake reviews, and proof of unnecessary repairs totaling over $22,000 in theft. The line went quiet. Can you hold for a moment? 5 minutes later, I was talking to someone named Rebecca Martinez, an investigative reporter who sounded genuinely interested. Mrs. Chen, how many victims are you saying we're dealing with? 7 confirmed, but I think there are dozens more. This mechanic has been running this scam for months, maybe years. And you have documentation? Invoices, second opinion reports, screenshots of the fake reviews, and I'm getting victim testimonies. One woman was evicted because of what he stole from her. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. This sounds like exactly the kind of story we've been looking for. Consumer protection, targeting vulnerable populations. Can we meet tomorrow? After hanging up, I realized my hands were shaking, not from fear this time, but from adrenaline. We were actually going to expose him. But at 11:23 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, heard you've been asking questions about my business. Might want to be careful spreading lies. Slander lawsuits are expensive. Wouldn't want you to lose more money you don't have. Asterisk. My stomach dropped. Marcus somehow knew what I was doing. I screenshot the text and immediately called Jennifer. He's threatening me. What do you mean threatening? I read her the message. Jennifer, how could he know? We've been careful about who we talk to. I don't know, but Sarah, this proves we're onto something big. He wouldn't threaten you if he wasn't scared. She was right, but lying in bed that night, listening to Emma's peaceful breathing from the next room, I wondered what I'd gotten us into. Marcus clearly had resources I didn't understand. The fake reviews must have cost money. The threats meant he was monitoring people somehow. At 2:15 a.m., unable to sleep, I checked my email and found something that made my heart race. 3 new messages from women who'd seen Jennifer's posts in various Facebook groups. 3 more victims. Each story identical to ours. Marcus hadn't just been running a scam. He'd been running a sophisticated, long-term criminal operation targeting the most vulnerable people in our city. And tomorrow, we were going to make sure everyone knew it. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. My phone had been buzzing since 4 a.m., but I turned off the sound after the first few notifications. The messages were all from the same person, Rebecca Martinez, the investigative reporter. Asterisk Sarah, call me ASAP. Something's happened. Asterisk. Asterisk Channel 7 Newsroom, urgent. Need to speak with you before 6 a.m. Asterisk. Asterisk Sarah, please call. Story may be compromised. Asterisk. My hands trembled as I dialed her number at 5:47 a.m., stepping into my bathroom so I wouldn't wake Emma. Sarah, thank God. Listen carefully, Elite Auto Service burned down last night. The phone nearly slipped from my hands. What? 3 a.m., suspicious fire. Everything's gone. All records, all evidence, all the cars that were being worked on. The fire marshal's calling it arson. I sank onto the edge of my bathtub. You think Marcus? I think your text message threat wasn't just intimidation. I think he knew exactly how much trouble he was in. Rebecca's voice was grim. Sarah, how many people knew you were talking to the media? My mind raced through yesterday's conversations. Jennifer, Dorothy, the victims who'd messaged us, the woman from Facebook who'd warned us about the Buick scam. Maybe 10 people? But they're all victims or family members. What about official complaints? Did you file anything with the police? Just the Consumer Protection Office at the courthouse. A horrible thought occurred to me. Rebecca, what about the cars? There were probably a dozen cars in that shop. Total loss. Customers are going to lose their vehicles and any money they'd already paid. She paused. Sarah, I hate to say this, but this fire might have just made your case impossible to prove. After hanging up, I drove past Elite Auto Service on my way to drop Emma at school. The building was a blackened shell, still smoking slightly. Yellow police tape fluttered in the morning breeze, and 2 fire trucks remained on scene. Emma pressed her face to the window. Mommy, what happened to that building? There was a fire, baby. That's sad. Did anyone get hurt? Looking at the destroyed shop where Marcus had stolen our security, where he'd looked my 6-year-old in the eye and lied to us, I felt a complicated mix of satisfaction and terror. I don't think so, sweetheart. But as I watched a fire investigator taking photos of the debris, I realized Marcus had just escalated this war beyond anything I'd imagined. At 8:15 a.m., while Emma was safely in her classroom, I called Jennifer from my car. Did you see the news? She asked immediately. I saw it in person. Jennifer, he burned down his own shop rather than face exposure. Which means we were right. He was stealing from people, probably for years. Her voice was angry but determined. Sarah, you know what this means, right? That we lost all our evidence? No. That he's desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. I could hear baby Maddox crying in the background. I've been awake since 4 a.m. thinking about this. Marcus destroyed his business, but he didn't destroy us. We're still here, we still have our stories, and now we have attempted evidence destruction. She had a point, but I felt overwhelmed. Jennifer, what if he comes after us directly? That text message last night. Then we make sure everyone knows we were threatened before anything happens to us. Sarah, we document everything and we go public immediately. Today. At 10:30 a.m., I met Rebecca Martinez at a diner across town. She looked tired, clutching a large coffee and surrounded by file folders. Sarah, I'm going to be honest. Without the shop records, this story becomes much harder to prove legally. But, she held up her phone, arson changes everything. This isn't just consumer fraud anymore. This is criminal destruction of evidence. So what do? We go bigger. I've contacted 3 other news stations and the state attorney general's office. If Marcus thought he could silence this story with a match and some gasoline, he's about to learn how wrong he is. Rebecca opened one of her folders. I also did some digging into Marcus himself. His real name is Marcus Anthony Rodriguez, and Elite Auto Service isn't his first business. He ran a similar shop in Delaware 3 years ago. My stomach dropped. What happened in Delaware? Same pattern. Targeting vulnerable customers, unnecessary repairs, fake reviews. But here's the interesting part, that shop also burned down. Right after complaints started piling up. The diner suddenly felt too warm. He's done this before. And gotten away with it. But not this time. Rebecca leaned forward. Sarah, I need to ask you something important. Are you prepared to go fully public with this? Because once we air this story, there's no going back. Marcus clearly isn't just a dishonest mechanic, he's a career criminal. I thought about Emma asking for lunch money, about Dorothy almost losing $4,000, about Jennifer having to give up her job. About all the victims we hadn't found yet. Yes, I said. Let's destroy him. That afternoon, Rebecca and I met with Detective Lisa Park from the Fraud Division. She was younger than I'd expected, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that immediately made me feel like someone was finally taking this seriously. Mrs. Chen, I've been investigating Marcus Rodriguez for 6 weeks, Detective Park said, spreading photos across the conference table. The fire last night wasn't his first mistake, it was his biggest one. My heart raced. You've been investigating him? For 6 weeks? We got a tip in January from a mechanic in Riverside who noticed an unusual pattern of customers coming to him for second opinions after visiting Elite Auto. All unnecessary work, all targeting the same demographic. She pointed to a photo of Marcus I'd never seen before. What we couldn't figure out was how he was identifying vulnerable targets so efficiently. Jennifer leaned forward. What do you mean? Detective Park pulled out another folder. Marcus wasn't randomly scamming people. He was specifically targeting single mothers, elderly drivers, and recent widows. The question was how he knew who to target. Maybe he just waited for people who looked uncertain? I suggested. That's what we thought initially. Until we discovered this. She slid a printout across the table. It was a membership list for something called Community Auto Care Program. I scanned the list and my blood went cold. My name was on it. So was Dorothy's. And Jennifer's. What is this? Jennifer whispered. A fake charity Marcus created 18 months ago. He partnered with senior centers, single-parent support groups, and women's shelters, offering discounted automotive services for families in need. People signed up thinking they were getting help. The room spun slightly. He was using a fake charity to identify vulnerable people? Gets worse. Every person who signed up had to fill out a financial disclosure form, income level, family situation, employment status. He literally had a database of people who couldn't afford to fight back. Rebecca was taking notes furiously. Detective, how many people are we talking about? The database had 437 names. Based on our investigation, we believe Marcus systematically targeted at least 60 of them over the past 18 months. 60 families. 60 people like me who trusted someone offering help and got robbed instead. Detective Park, I said slowly, if you've been investigating him for 6 weeks, why didn't you arrest him before he burned down the shop? Her expression darkened. We were building a federal case. Financial fraud across state lines, tax evasion, identity theft from the charity applications. We needed ironclad evidence because Marcus had connections. What kind of connections? His uncle owns 3 auto shops in Pennsylvania. His cousin runs a similar operation in Florida. We think this is a family business, Sarah. Multi-generational fraud targeting vulnerable communities across multiple states. The magnitude of what we'd stumbled into hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about my $3,000 or even our small group of local victims. We'd uncovered what might be a nationwide criminal organization. The fire destroyed our local evidence, Detective Park continued, but it also gave us probable cause for federal involvement. The FBI is now treating this as organized crime. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. Detective, what happens to us now? To our kids? If this is organized crime, you're under police protection starting today. Unmarked cars outside your homes, check-ins every 12 hours. Marcus made a critical error threatening you, Sarah. That text message is evidence of witness intimidation in a federal investigation. As we left the police station, I realized our small fight for justice had become something much larger and more dangerous. Somewhere in the city, Marcus was planning his next move. And now the FBI was hunting him. That evening, while Emma was at Dorothy's house for her weekly sleepover, I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone. Detective Park had given me her direct number with strict instructions to call immediately if anything felt wrong. The unmarked police car parked across the street should have made me feel safe, but instead it reminded me how dangerous this situation had become. At 8:43 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Sarah? This is Maria Santos. I got your number from Jennifer Walsh. The woman's voice was shaky, nervous. She said you're gathering information about Elite Auto Service? Yes, but Maria, the shop burned down last night. Are you okay? That's why I'm calling. I think Marcus came to my house today. My blood went cold. What do you mean came to your house? A man matching his description knocked on my door around 3 p.m. Said he was following up on customer satisfaction, wanted to make sure I was happy with my recent service. Maria's voice cracked. Sarah, I was scammed by Elite Auto 6 months ago. $4,000 for transmission work my car never needed. Why would he show up at my house now? I grabbed a pen and started taking notes. Maria, did he say anything else? Ask any questions? He kept asking if I'd talked to anyone about my experience, if I'd posted any reviews online. When I said no, he seemed relieved. Then he offered me a partial refund if I'd signed something saying I was satisfied with the work. This was witness tampering. Active, ongoing witness tampering while under federal investigation. Maria, please tell me you didn't sign anything. I told him I needed to think about it. He said he'd come back tomorrow evening for my answer. She paused. Sarah, I'm scared. How did he know where I live? The charity database. Marcus still had access to personal information for hundreds of victims. He was systematically visiting people, trying to buy their silence before the investigation could reach them. Maria, I'm going to give you Detective Lisa Park's number. Call her immediately and tell her everything you told me. I rattled off the number. And don't answer your door tomorrow. Don't sign anything. Just call the police if he comes back. After hanging up, I immediately called Detective Park. Mrs. Chen, it's almost 9 p.m. This better be important. I explained Maria's call, reading from my notes. Detective Park was quiet for so long I thought the connection had dropped. Detective? Are you there? I'm here. Sarah, this changes everything. If Marcus is actively tampering with witnesses, it means he's not planning to run. He's planning to stay and fight. Her voice was grim. Which makes him exponentially more dangerous. What do you mean? Most criminals in his situation would disappear. New identity, different state, start over somewhere else. But Marcus is trying to control the narrative, silence witnesses, minimize damage. That suggests he believes he can beat this. My hands started shaking. Why would he think that? Money. Connections. Or both. I heard papers shuffling on her end. Sarah, I need you to do something for me. I need you to call every victim you've been in contact with and tell them to expect a visit from Marcus. They need to know not to sign anything, not to take any money, and to call me immediately if he shows up. The next hour was a nightmare of phone calls. 7 women, all with similar stories. 3 had already been visited by Marcus. 1, an elderly woman named Ruth, had actually signed his customer satisfaction form in exchange for a $500 check. He was so polite, Ruth told me, her voice confused. Said the whole thing was a misunderstanding, that his insurance company required customer signatures to process refunds. $500 is a lot of money for someone like me. My heart sank. Ruth, did you cash the check? Not yet. He said to wait 3 days before depositing it. 3 days. Just long enough for Marcus to disappear if his plan worked, leaving Ruth with a worthless piece of paper and legal documentation that she was satisfied with his service. At 10:47 p.m., Detective Park called back. Sarah, we have a problem. We just discovered Marcus cleaned out his business accounts yesterday morning. Transferred approximately $340,000 to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. $340,000. The stolen money from dozens of families, hidden beyond the reach of U.S. law enforcement. Detective, what does this mean for getting our money back? It means Marcus has been planning this exit strategy for months. The fire wasn't panic, it was the final step in a carefully orchestrated cover-up. She paused. Sarah, I need to ask you something. When Marcus texted you that threat, did you respond to it? I thought back to that terrifying message. No, I screenshot it and called Jennifer, but I never responded to Marcus directly. Good. Because we traced that number. It's registered to a fake name, but we know where it is. Detective Park's voice carried a note of satisfaction I hadn't heard before. Marcus Rodriguez is still in the city. And tomorrow morning, we're going to arrest him. As I hung up, I realized that in less than 24 hours, this nightmare might finally be over. But looking at the police car outside my window, I knew that even when Marcus was arrested, the damage he'd done to dozens of families would take years to repair. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. At 5:23 a.m., my phone exploded with notifications. Not the gentle buzzing I'd programmed for Detective Park's number, but the harsh alarm tone I'd set for emergencies. The first text made my stomach drop. Sarah, turn on channel 7 now. Something's wrong. Jennifer. I stumbled to the living room and flicked on the TV, keeping the volume low so I wouldn't wake Emma. The early morning news was showing aerial footage of a house I didn't recognize, police cars and ambulances scattered across the front lawn. The home of Detective Lisa Park was vandalized sometime between midnight and 3 a.m. Sources close to the investigation say threatening messages were spray-painted across the garage door, and the detective's personal vehicle was severely damaged. My hands went numb. Detective Park, the one person who'd made me feel like justice was actually possible, had been targeted because of our case. The news anchor continued, Detective Park was not harmed, but this incident appears related to her ongoing investigation into automotive fraud. The suspect, Marcus Rodriguez, was scheduled to be arrested this morning but is now considered armed and extremely dangerous. Armed. They'd never said armed before. My phone rang, Detective Park's number. Mrs. Chen, I need you to listen very carefully, she said without preamble. Her voice was tight, controlled anger barely contained. The arrest has been postponed. Marcus escalated this beyond anything we anticipated. Detective, are you okay? The news said. I'm fine, but he knows where I live. Which means he probably knows where you live too. The words hit like ice water. Sarah, we're moving you and Emma to a safe house immediately. Pack 1 bag each, essential items only. Officers will be at your door in 15 minutes. A safe house? For how long? Until we find Marcus. The vandalism at my house included very specific threats about what he'd do to lying bitches who destroy honest businessmen. Her voice hardened. He mentioned you by name, Sarah. The room tilted. Emma was sleeping peacefully down the hall, completely unaware that a criminal had threatened her mother specifically. I thought about her favorite stuffed rabbit, her school clothes, the normal 6-year-old life that was about to be completely disrupted. Detective, what about Emma's school? She has a spelling test today, and... Sarah. Detective Park's voice was gentle but firm. Your daughter's safety is more important than a spelling test. We'll handle the school notification. At 6:07 a.m., 2 plainclothes officers stood in my living room while I tried to explain to a confused and scared Emma why we had to leave immediately. Are we in trouble, Mommy? She asked, clutching her rabbit while I stuffed clothes into a duffel bag. No, baby. Remember how I told you sometimes grown-ups have to help police catch bad guys? Well, the police need to keep us extra safe while they do their job. Emma's eyes widened. Like witness protection on TV? The older officer, Detective Martinez, smiled despite the tension. Something like that, sweetheart. We're going to take you somewhere fun until this is all over. But as we walked to the unmarked car at 6:34 a.m., I caught Detective Martinez speaking quietly into his radio, suspect still in the wind, threats against multiple witnesses, requesting additional units for neighborhood canvass. Marcus wasn't just running anymore. He was actively hunting the people who'd exposed him. The safe house turned out to be a modest apartment across town, staffed by 2 officers I'd never met. As Emma explored the small space, fascinated by the adventure despite everything, I called Jennifer from the secure phone they'd provided. Sarah, thank God you're okay, she said immediately. They moved us too. Maddox and I are in some kind of police facility downtown. Jennifer, what if we made things worse? What if fighting back just put everyone in more danger? No. Her voice was fierce. Marcus put us in danger the moment he decided to steal from families. We just refused to be quiet about it. But sitting in that sterile apartment, watching Emma try to make the best of our situation, I wondered if my need for justice had accidentally turned my 6-year-old daughter into a target. At 11:43 a.m., Detective Park called with an update that made everything worse. Sarah, we found Marcus's truck abandoned at the airport. But here's the problem, he never boarded a flight. Security footage shows him entering the terminal, but he never came out the other side. Marcus was still in the city. Still dangerous. Still hunting. And we had no idea where. At 2:17 p.m., the secure phone rang with news that changed everything. Detective Park's voice was strained in a way I hadn't heard before. Sarah, we found Marcus. But the situation is complicated. I gripped the phone tighter, watching Emma color at the kitchen table of our safe house. What do you mean complicated? He's barricaded himself in his ex-wife's house on Oakwood Drive with their 2 young children. He's claiming this whole investigation is harassment, that he's the real victim here. Detective Park paused. And Sarah, he's demanding to speak with you specifically. My blood went cold. Me? Why me? He says you started this witch hunt and you're the only one who can end it. He wants to negotiate some kind of deal, his surrender in exchange for you publicly admitting you were wrong about the repairs. The audacity was breathtaking. Even cornered and facing federal charges, Marcus was still trying to manipulate the narrative. Detective, please tell me you're not actually considering. Of course not. But Sarah, there's something else. We ran financial records on those offshore accounts. The $340,000 he transferred? That was just the money from the past 6 months. We found evidence of similar transfers going back 3 years. 3 years. While I was struggling to buy Emma's school supplies and worrying about grocery money, Marcus had been systematically stealing from vulnerable families and hiding over $1 million overseas. There's more, Detective Park continued. Remember how I mentioned his family connections? We just discovered his uncle in Pennsylvania is also under investigation. Same pattern, same fake charity setup, same targeting methods. The FBI thinks this operation spans at least 8 states. I sank into the couch as the full scope hit me. We hadn't just exposed one dishonest mechanic, we'd uncovered a multi-generational crime family that had been preying on vulnerable people across the country for years. At 3:45 p.m., the situation escalated again. Detective Martinez burst into the safe house, his radio crackling with urgent chatter. Mrs. Chen, we need to move you again. Marcus just posted something on social media that has us concerned. He showed me his phone screen. Marcus had created a Facebook Live video from inside the house, speaking directly to the camera with an unsettling calm. Behind him, I could see children's toys scattered around what looked like a living room. This whole thing started because one bitter woman couldn't accept that her car needed real repairs, Marcus was saying to his growing audience. Sarah Chen has destroyed my business, my reputation, my family. All because she wanted to blame someone else for her financial problems. My hands shook as I watched him lie with such conviction. The comments were already flooding in, some people buying his story completely, others expressing support for me. The narrative was splitting in real time. He's trying to turn public opinion, Detective Martinez explained. Creating his own victim story before the truth comes out fully. But then Marcus looked directly into the camera and said something that made my stomach drop. Sarah, I know you're watching this. You want to protect your little girl, don't you? Then maybe it's time we talked face to face. Just you and me. The live stream had over 2,000 viewers and climbing. Marcus wasn't just threatening me anymore, he was doing it in front of an audience, creating witnesses to his manipulation. Emma looked up from her coloring book. Mommy, why do you look scared? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk safe houses aren't as safe as you think. Clock's ticking, Sarah. Every minute you wait makes this harder for everyone. Asterisk. Detective Martinez was already calling for backup, but I realized with growing horror that Marcus had just turned our entire situation into a public spectacle. And somehow, he still thought he could win. At 7:23 p.m., everything changed again. Officer Martinez's radio erupted with urgent chatter, and I watched his face go pale as he listened to the stream of updates. What's happening? I asked, pulling Emma closer on the couch. The children Marcus is with aren't his, Martinez said grimly. We just spoke with his ex-wife, Carmen Rodriguez. She's been in Phoenix visiting her sister for 3 days. Those are her neighbor's kids' 8-year-old twins he's basically taken hostage. My stomach dropped. Marcus hadn't just escalated to threatening adults, he'd involved innocent children who had nothing to do with any of this. The neighbors just let him take their kids? Carmen gave him a key months ago to check on the house while she was away. The neighbors, an elderly couple named the Washingtons, thought Carmen had asked Marcus to babysit while they ran errands. Martinez shook his head. They'd been gone for 6 hours, probably panicking and searching everywhere. The secure phone rang, Detective Park again. Sarah, the situation just became exponentially worse. Marcus's livestream now has over 15,000 viewers, and he started reading the comments aloud. People are taking sides, some demanding we negotiate with him, others calling for immediate action. What kind of comments? Mixed. About 40% think he's a victim of false accusations. 30% support you. The rest are just here for drama. Her voice was tight with frustration. But Sarah, some viewers are posting your personal information in the chat. Your old address, Emma's school, even photos they found on your social media. The room spun slightly. Strangers on the internet now had access to details about my daughter's life because Marcus had turned his criminal breakdown into entertainment. Detective, what about the children with him? Are they okay? He's keeping them off camera, but we can hear them in the background. They sound confused but not hurt. Marcus keeps telling them their Aunt Carmen asked him to watch them while their grandparents run long errands. At 8:41 p.m., Jennifer called the secure line with news that made everything more surreal. Sarah, you're not going to believe this. Marcus's livestream comment section is full of other victims. Women from different states sharing their stories about similar shops, similar scams. Other states? Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina. Same pattern, fake charities to identify targets, unnecessary repairs, threatening behavior when questioned. Sarah, we accidentally created a nationwide support group in Marcus's own comment section. I could hear the irony wasn't lost on her. Marcus's attempt to control the narrative had backfired spectacularly, giving victims from across the country a platform to share their experiences with thousands of witnesses. There's more, Jennifer continued. Someone in the comments claims to be Marcus's cousin from Florida. She's saying the whole family has been running these scams for over a decade, moving from state to state when heat gets too intense. By 9:15 p.m., the FBI had taken over coordination from local police. Agent Sarah Kim, a hostage negotiator, briefed me via video call from the command center they'd established 3 blocks from the barricaded house. Mrs. Chen, Marcus is specifically requesting you because he believes you're the weak link, Agent Kim explained. In his mind, if he can get you to publicly recant your allegations, the entire case collapses. But that's insane. There are dozens of victims, documented evidence. Criminals often develop tunnel vision under pressure. Marcus has convinced himself that destroying your credibility will somehow undo everything. Agent Kim leaned forward. What he doesn't understand is that this investigation has grown far beyond your initial complaint. At 9:47 p.m., Marcus's livestream took a disturbing turn. He'd been pacing and ranting for over 6 hours, and exhaustion was making him more erratic. You know what, Sarah, he said directly to the camera, his voice carrying an edge it hadn't before. Maybe it's time people knew the whole truth about your perfect victim story. Like how you were 3 months behind on rent before you even brought your car to me. My chest tightened. How could he possibly know that? Maybe they should know about the maxed out credit cards, the unpaid medical bills, the fact that you've been broke for years. Marcus smiled coldly at the camera. This was never about car repairs, folks. This is about a deadbeat who needed someone to blame for her financial failures. Every word was devastating because parts of it were true. I had been struggling financially. I was behind on bills. But he was twisting my poverty into evidence of dishonesty, using my vulnerability against me in front of 15,000 strangers. Emma tugged at my sleeve. Mommy, why are you crying? I hadn't realized I was. At 10:23 p.m., Agent Kim called with information that made my blood run cold. Sarah, we've been monitoring Marcus's financial records in real time. He just attempted to transfer another $180,000 from a secondary account we didn't know existed. Another account? I whispered, moving to the kitchen so Emma couldn't hear. Gets worse. The transaction was blocked, but the account shows regular deposits going back 5 years. Sarah, we're not looking at $340,000 anymore. We're looking at over $2.3 million in stolen funds. $2.3 million. The number was so staggering I couldn't process it. How many families? Based on average theft amounts, we estimate between 400 and 600 victims across multiple states. Agent Kim's voice was grim. Sarah, Marcus isn't just some dishonest mechanic who got in over his head. He's been running a sophisticated criminal enterprise that's destroyed hundreds of lives. At 11:07 p.m., the situation took another horrifying turn. Marcus's livestream viewer count had climbed to over 22,000 people, and the comments section had devolved into chaos. But worse than the trolls and conspiracy theorists was what Detective Martinez showed me on his tablet. Mrs. Chen, people are showing up at the scene, he said, scrolling through social media posts. Look at this. The screen showed dozens of photos and videos posted from Oakwood Drive. Crowds of people with phones, treating Marcus's breakdown like a street festival. Some held signs supporting him, others supporting me. A few entrepreneurs were even selling snacks to the gathered spectators. This is insane, I breathed. Those children are inside with an unstable criminal, and people are treating it like entertainment. It gets worse. 3 local news vans just arrived, and Channel 7's Rebecca Martinez is trying to broadcast live from the scene. The FBI is considering shutting down cell towers in the area to prevent this from escalating further. At 11:34 p.m., my secure phone rang with a call that changed everything. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but when I answered, a small voice whispered, "Is this Sarah? The lady from the video?" My heart stopped. Who is this? I'm Lily. I'm 8. The man is scary now and Mason is crying. He keeps yelling at the phone and throwing things. One of the children Marcus was holding had somehow gotten access to a phone. Lily, sweetie, where are you in the house? Upstairs bathroom. Mason's with me. The man doesn't know we have Grandpa Joe's old phone. Her voice was trembling but brave. He said we can't leave until the mean lady apologizes on TV. Are you the mean lady? Tears burned my eyes. No, honey. I'm not mean, and neither are you. The man is confused and needs help from doctors. He's getting more angry. He threw a chair at the TV and now it's broken. Mason thinks we're in trouble, but I told him the police will come. Agent Kim materialized beside me, having rushed over from the command center. She gestured for me to keep Lily talking while she alerted the tactical team. Lily, you're being so brave. Can you tell me what room the man is in now? Downstairs in the kitchen. He's looking in the refrigerator and talking to himself. Sometimes he talks to the phone, but nobody answers anymore. The live stream had apparently cut out, but Marcus didn't realize it yet. He was performing for an audience that no longer existed, his grip on reality deteriorating rapidly. Lily, I need you to listen very carefully. Keep Mason with you in that bathroom and don't come out until you hear police officers calling your names, okay? Real police will say this is the FBI very loudly. Okay. Will you make sure our grandparents know we're okay? They're probably worried. At 11:58 p.m., Agent Kim made the decision to move in immediately. Marcus's mental state was deteriorating, and the children were no longer safe waiting for him to surrender voluntarily. As tactical teams surrounded the house on Oakwood Drive, I realized that what started as a simple fight for justice had become something nobody could have predicted. And in 2 minutes, it would either end with those children safe, or become infinitely worse. At 12:03 a.m., the world exploded into chaos. Agent Kim's radio crackled with urgent updates as tactical teams breached the house. Suspect not on main floor, children located upstairs, safe, suspect may have fled through basement exit. My heart hammered against my ribs. What do you mean fled? Through her earpiece, I could hear shouting, the thunder of boots on stairs, doors slamming. Then Agent Kim's face went pale. Sarah, Marcus isn't in the house. The basement has a tunnel that connects to the storm drain system. A tunnel. While we'd been focused on the front door standoff, Marcus had been planning an escape route that probably existed long before tonight. The children? Safe. Scared but unharmed. Lily and Mason are with paramedics now. Agent Kim was already coordinating with multiple agencies. But Sarah, this changes everything. Marcus has been underground for over an hour with a head start we didn't know he had. At 12:47 a.m., the secure phone rang with news that made my blood freeze. Detective Park's voice was tight with controlled panic. Sarah, Marcus just used Lily's grandfather's phone to post on Facebook. One post, but it's enough. What did he say? Phase 1 complete. Time for Phase 2. See you soon, Sarah. Detective Park paused. He tagged your location. My hands went numb. Somehow, despite being in a secure facility, Marcus had identified where Emma and I were hiding. How is that possible? We're investigating, but right now we need to move you again. Immediately. Officer Martinez was already grabbing our emergency bags, but Emma was finally asleep on the couch after the most terrifying day of her young life. The thought of waking her up to run again felt like child abuse. Detective, what if we're just making this worse? What if I turn myself in, meet with Marcus publicly, end this? Absolutely not. Agent Kim had returned from the scene, her tactical vest still strapped on. Sarah, we found something in Marcus's basement that changes everything. He's been planning this for months. She showed me photos on her tablet. The basement wasn't just an escape route, it was a command center. Charts with names and photos of victims covered one wall. Another wall showed detailed surveillance photos of me, Emma, Jennifer, even Detective Park coming and going from our homes. He's been watching all of us for weeks, Agent Kim continued. Sarah, look at this. The final photo made my stomach drop. It was Emma's school pickup line from last Tuesday, taken with a telephoto lens. Marcus had been close enough to photograph my daughter without me knowing. At 1:23 a.m., as we prepared to move to our third safe location in 18 hours, Jennifer called with information that reframed everything we thought we knew. Sarah, I've been going through the Facebook comments from Marcus's livestream, and I found something. Her voice was shaking. Remember how his cousin from Florida was posting? She private messaged me. What did she say? Marcus isn't the leader of this operation. He's the expendable one. Jennifer paused. His uncle in Pennsylvania has been running this scam for 15 years. Whenever heat gets too intense in one location, they sacrifice the local operator and move on. Sarah, Marcus was always meant to be the fall guy. The implications hit like a physical blow. You mean his uncle knew this would happen? More than that. She thinks his uncle is already setting up the next location. Marcus burning down the shop, taking hostages, threatening us, it's all designed to make him look like a lone wolf who snapped under pressure. At 1:51 a.m., as we drove through empty streets toward our new safe house, Agent Kim's phone buzzed with an update that changed everything again. They found Marcus's truck, she announced, reading from her screen. Abandoned in the parking lot of Westfield Elementary. Emma School. Agent Kim, I whispered, school starts in 6 hours. There will be hundreds of children. Already handled. The school's been notified, security increased, but Sarah. She turned to face me in the back seat. We think this is intentional. Marcus wants you to know he can reach the people you care about most. As our car pulled into the parking lot of what looked like a police facility, I realized Marcus had just escalated from financial fraud to psychological warfare. And somehow, I was still the primary target. At 3:17 a.m., I finally understood the full scope of what we were dealing with. Agent Kim woke me from the first real sleep I'd managed in 36 hours, her face grim in the fluorescent light of the police facility's break room. Emma was still curled up on the small cot they'd provided, clutching her stuffed rabbit and somehow sleeping through the chaos that had consumed our lives. Sarah, we need to talk, Agent Kim whispered, gesturing toward a conference room down the hall. The FBI Cybercrimes Unit just finished analyzing Marcus's computer setup from the basement. I followed her on unsteady legs, my mind still foggy from exhaustion. The conference room held 3 agents I'd never seen before, laptops open, surrounded by printouts and evidence bags. Mrs. Chen, I'm Agent Robert Chen with Cybercrimes, said a man who looked like he hadn't slept in days. No relation, despite the name. We've discovered that Marcus's operation was far more sophisticated than anyone realized. He pulled up something on his laptop screen, what looked like a professional database with hundreds of entries. This isn't just a fake charity collecting victim information. Marcus has been running a complete identity theft operation alongside the automotive fraud. My stomach dropped. What do you mean identity theft? Every person who filled out the Community Auto Care Program application provided their social security number, driver's license information, bank details, employment history. Agent Chen scrolled through screen after screen of personal data. We found evidence that Marcus has been selling this information to other criminal organizations for $200 to $300 per identity. The room tilted slightly. Not only had Marcus stolen my money and threatened my family, he potentially sold my entire financial identity to strangers. Sarah, Agent Kim said gently, we need to ask you some uncomfortable questions. Have you noticed any unusual activity on your credit report? Accounts you didn't open, applications for loans you didn't request? I thought about the credit card rejection I'd received last month, the one that mentioned recent credit inquiries I couldn't explain. There was something, but I assumed it was just because my credit was already bad from being behind on bills. Agent Chen made a note. We'll need to run a comprehensive credit check immediately. Sarah, based on what we've found, you and Emma may need new social security numbers. This level of identity compromise requires starting over completely. Starting over completely. New social security numbers meant new credit history, new medical records, new everything. Emma would need a new birth certificate. I'd need to rebuild 7 years of employment history from scratch. At 4:33 a.m., Detective Park called with an update that made everything more urgent. Sarah, Marcus surfaced again. He used a stolen phone to call Channel 7's tip line 20 minutes ago. Her voice was tight with exhaustion and frustration. He claims he has evidence that you and Jennifer orchestrated this entire investigation to cover up insurance fraud. Insurance fraud? What insurance fraud? According to Marcus, you deliberately damaged your own car and brought it to his shop to create a fake victim story for a lawsuit. Detective Park sighed heavily. It's complete nonsense, but he's offering to provide documentation to any news outlet willing to meet with him. The audacity was staggering. Even while running from federal agents, Marcus was still trying to flip the script, turning himself into the wronged party. Detective, please tell me no news station is actually considering. 3 stations have already called asking for comment. Rebecca Martinez from Channel 7 is refusing to give Marcus a platform, but the others. She trailed off. Sarah, Marcus is promising exclusive access to financial records that supposedly prove you've been planning this scam for months. At 5:19 a.m., Jennifer called the secure line with news that made my blood run cold. Sarah, Marcus contacted my sister in Denver somehow. He knows about my family members in other states. Jennifer's voice was shaking. He told Katie that I was part of a conspiracy to destroy honest small businesses, that I was trying to get rich off fake lawsuits. The scope of his surveillance was becoming clear. Marcus hadn't just been watching our local activities, he'd been mapping our entire social networks, identifying pressure points across multiple states. Jennifer, how could he possibly know about your sister in Denver? That's what terrifies me. Katie said he knew details about her job, her kids' names, even mentioned that her husband travels for work. Jennifer was crying now. Sarah, he's been watching all of us for so much longer than we realized. As dawn broke outside the police facility windows, I watched Emma sleep peacefully, unaware that our old life was gone forever. In 6 hours, she'd wake up to discover that not only could she not go to school today, she might never go back to her old school again. Marcus had won something, even in defeat. He'd destroyed our sense of safety so completely that even capture might not be enough to make us whole. But at 6:47 a.m., Agent Kim walked into the break room with news that would change everything one final time. Sarah, we found him. At 7:23 a.m., I stood behind bulletproof glass watching Marcus Rodriguez get loaded into an FBI transport vehicle, his hands cuffed behind his back, his expensive suit replaced with Orange County jail scrubs. He looked smaller than I remembered, deflated without the confidence that came from exploiting vulnerable people. It's over, Agent Kim said beside me, but her voice carried a note of satisfaction I hadn't heard before. He was hiding in his uncle's storage unit on the east side. Probably figured it would be the last place we'd look. Through the glass, I could see Marcus scanning the crowd of agents and reporters, clearly searching for something. When his eyes found mine, he mouthed words I couldn't hear but understood perfectly. This isn't over. Agent Kim noticed too. Actually, Marcus, it really is over. Want to tell Sarah what we found in that storage unit? She handed me a folder thick with photographs and documents. The first page showed stacks of cash, probably $50,000, bundled with rubber bands. The second showed dozens of fake IDs, driver's licenses, and social security cards. But the third page made me gasp. It was a handwritten ledger in Marcus's distinctive scrawl, documenting every victim over the past 3 years. Names, amount stolen, personal details, and a column labeled risk level that rated how likely each person was to fight back. My name was there, marked low risk, single mother, financially desperate, no support system. He kept records of everything, Agent Kim explained. Every theft, every fake review he posted, every identity he sold. Marcus thought he was being careful, but he actually documented his entire criminal operation. The final page of the folder contained bank statements showing the recovered funds. Not just the $340,000 from the Cayman Islands account, but money from 12 other hidden accounts across 6 states. Total recovered, $2.7 million. Sarah, this is enough to compensate every victim we've identified, plus penalties and interest. Agent Kim smiled. Your $3,000 is going to become closer to $10,000 once we factor in damages and restitution. At 8:45 a.m., Rebecca Martinez from Channel 7 called with news that felt like vindication. Sarah, the story aired nationally this morning. Marcus's arrest is leading every major network, and the FBI is crediting your investigation with uncovering the largest automotive fraud ring in U.S. history. What about his uncle? The Pennsylvania operation? Raids happening simultaneously in 4 states. The entire family network is being dismantled. Rebecca paused. Sarah, you should know, we're getting calls from victims as far away as Texas and Oregon. Women who saw the story and realized they'd been targeted by similar operations. By noon, Marcus had been formally charged with 47 felony counts including racketeering, identity theft, money laundering, and threatening federal witnesses. His bail was set at $2 million, which he couldn't make since all his assets were frozen. At 2:17 p.m., I did something that 6 days ago would have been unimaginable. I walked into Elite Auto Service's burned-out shell with a Channel 7 news crew, looked directly into the camera, and spoke to every woman who'd ever been told her car needed mysterious expensive repairs. Trust your instincts, I said, standing where Marcus used to prey on vulnerable families. If something feels wrong, get a second opinion. If someone tries to pressure you with fear tactics, walk away. And if you've already been victimized, speak up. You're not alone, and you're not powerless. 3 months later, Emma and I moved into a small house I actually owned, purchased with part of my restitution settlement. The Community Auto Care Program database had been turned over to victim advocacy groups, ensuring that everyone Marcus targeted would receive support and compensation. Jennifer Walsh got her job back at the bank and started a nonprofit helping automotive fraud victims navigate the legal system. Detective Park was promoted to head the state's new Consumer Fraud Task Force. And Rebecca Martinez won a journalism award for her investigative series on organized automotive fraud. As for Marcus Rodriguez, he pleaded guilty to all charges in exchange for a 23-year federal sentence. No parole. No early release. No more opportunities to steal security from struggling families. The night the verdict was announced, Emma asked me why I was crying happy tears. Because sometimes, I told her, when bad people hurt good people, the good people can fight back and win. She considered this seriously, then nodded. Like David and Goliath? Exactly like David and Goliath, baby. Justice wasn't just served, it was delivered with interest.